everybody? Welcome to a brand new edition of the MEAC More with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully you all are doing well out there. I apologize for the lavalier mic that I have on because, well, this microphone that I paid $99 for 18 months ago just decided to stop working out of the blue. I was realizing this when I was recording some other podcasts that this microphone has just ceased to stop working. So thanks a lot, Yeti Blue. Greatly appreciate it. And thanks to Five Below for this little $5 microphone that I have on. But yes, we're going to have a fun show today. We are going to, do some house cleaning with respect to football. But before we get to that, as always, the MEAC and More is sponsored by Rock Solid Contracting and Development out of Wilmington, Delaware. Rock Solid Contracting and Development handles all your construction, demolition, remediation needs. If you need something built, they can build it. If you need something torn down, they can tear it down. They also do all sorts of planning and work in the what's the word I'm looking for? Architectural field and all of that. So be sure to go to rocksolidworks.net to check out Rock Solid Contracting, which is sponsoring this program so graciously by CEO Norman Oliver, a Delaware State alum and an HBCU alum. And we thank him, as always, for sponsoring this program, as he will do throughout the academic year. So today, we are going to close out football business for the most part. Next week, we have the Celebration Bowl, but we're going to close out the MEAC and More football business this week. We're going to hand out grades, and there are a lot of grades to discuss. So if you guys are, ready to, get the party started, feel free to tune on in. Be sure to, give us a super chat while we're here. It can be $1, $2, $5, or if you're balling like Mackenzie Scott, you can get 50 million. And I said I had a hot take that I wanted to share, and I'm going to go ahead and share it now. I'm very interested. It's very interesting to note that a lot of Black famous people with money aren't donating to HBCUs. And Mackenzie Scott, a white woman, is dropping bags on HBCUs. So where's our people? Where's our famous folks? Where's our philanthropists? Where are our wealthy people who are willing to give back to HBCUs? Diddy don't count. Bill Cosby damn sure don't count. And if there's somebody out there that's giving money, I'll never forget I forgot the name of the gentleman who wiped out all the student debt for I think it was Morehouse, and I can't remember his name, and that's going to bother me. I know he gave back sizably, Robert something. But what I need to see, we got Mackenzie Scotts in our community. Why are they not helping our schools? That's my hot take. But yeah, anyway, if you want to donate, be sure to drop a super chat here. And again, we have Cash App. Just thanks, Steve. Is Stephen Campbell checking in? Greatly appreciate him. Is Robert Smith. Yeah, Robert Smith just wiped out student loan debt for a bunch of Clark folks. Thanks, Dwayne J. as well. Soldier Rag, Brandon says, tell Ken Rashad I bought his book. I hope it makes him feel better after Saturday. Woo, Lord, Friday is going to be a fun day around here, boy. Let me tell you. But yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that on the swag page of HBC Sports Live on Friday. Make no mistake about it. So yes, if you want to donate, we have Cash App. Put in the $ HBCU Sports. And if you want to go to the Zelle app, go to Zelle, type in donate at hbcusports.com. Or if you want to go directly to the website, hbcusports.com/donate. And I want to get at least 2 super chats before I get off the air today. So if I can get 2 super chats, like I said, $1, $2, 50 million, doesn't matter. Just go ahead and donate. But yes, we are handing out grades today for every MEAC school and the more. So we're going to start with the more aspect of our, friends on this particular podcast. And we're going to start with the Hampton Pirates. Now, the Pirates finished 2-10 overall, 0-8 in Coastal Athletic Association play. And that, unfortunately, cost head coach Trent Boykin his job. So Hampton is looking for a new head coach. And these are the grades I have for Hampton. Their offense was a C because they really couldn't figure out who the quarterback was going to be. They had skilled position players, but when you don't have, as the great Lynn Thompson as the strategic advisor for the MEAC says, a trigger man. If you don't have a good trigger man, what can you do? So Hampton's offense gets a C. Their D definitely gets a D. They did not have a good year on the defensive side of the ball at all. And their special teams were probably worse. So I gave Hampton a D plus for this year because I just felt that with respect to everything that's going on with that program, that hopefully the AD Anthony Henderson and the Williams family who runs the university, they are ready to make a splash. I mean, because I said it in my column about Marshall Faulk that Southern didn't need to make a splash. I don't think Hampton necessarily needs to make a splash higher either, but I think they will because hello, they're Hampton University. They're one of the Black Ivies. They're one of the ones people know. So I'm very interested to see who gets that job. Shouts out to Lionel Williams for checking in. Greatly appreciate you. Shouts out to Adam Spencer as well. And thanks to Edwin for checking in. And shouts out to Christopher Dukes, the Jackson State Tiger, for checking in. Greatly appreciate y'all for coming in along with your boy, as always. Now we move on to the next grade that we're giving out, and that is the Tennessee State Tigers. Now, Tennessee State, I don't think it's fair to, just totally, dismiss the fact that Eddie George left before spring practice and Reggie Barlow stepped in. And I think a full recruiting year is going to help Reggie Barlow in that Tennessee State team. But this year was not good. They finished 2-10 overall, did not win an OVC Big South game. Their offense was miserable. Their defense was the highlight. They had some really good defensive games. They just couldn't score the ball. They lost the game 7-6. When you lose a game 7-6, that ain't on your defense. That's on your offense. Special teams get a C. So overall, I gave Tennessee State a D plus because I felt that, Barlow was, he was kind of, I don't want to say he was walking into a hornet's nest, but he knew that it was probably going to be tough sledding his first year. But I don't expect Tennessee State to be this bad in 2026. Not a chance. So our last more participant in our grading scheme is the North Carolina A&T State Aggies. And I think people are probably going to look at these grades and say, wow, Chris, you were really generous. But think about how bad they were under Vincent Brown. They looked markedly better under Sean Gibbs. No, they didn't win enough games to, really, pair that out. But look at what they did. They won 2 games this year, both against Division I opponents. That counts for something. Both of them in the Coastal Athletic Association. That counts for something. So they finished 2-10 overall, 2-6 in the Coastal. Offense, again, they had quarterback issues. They went with running back by committee. The receivers were okay. So I gave them a C. Their defense and special teams were really strong, especially the young man in the picture who returned a couple kicks for touchdowns. So this is so A&T has some guys. And so I gave them a C plus because I felt that anything Sean Gibbs did this year was going to be better than what Vincent Brown did in the previous 2 years. And that's exactly what happened. And Gibbs is already talking about, he's tired of fake love. He's making changes and all of that. So he's about business. So I think that, given that he's going to have another full year to go out and get some guys that can help them make chicken, as it were, and just being able to, get guys that are, going to be able to do what A&T football wants to do under Sean Gibbs. I think 2026 will be better for them. I don't know how much better, because the Coastal is not going to get any easier because Sacred Heart comes in next year, and Sacred Heart swept the MEAC, even though they cheated in the Delaware State game. Delaware State lost to Sacred Heart and the refs. Never forget that, because Caden Bennett got kicked out for high-fiving fans and not flipping the ball to an official who was running behind him. So, yeah, Delaware State lost to Sacred Heart and the refs. That's right, I said it. What's happening? As far as film, I watched as many games as I could on ESPN Plus because I wasn't paying $30 for the ESPN package, bro. I just wasn't. If they were on like the ESPN Plus, the $12.99, I was able to watch. A&T and Hampton, I did not get to see much of because they're on Flow Sports, and I'm just not paying for Flow Sports. So I got to see what little I could of both of those programs. And I also took into account, statistical rating, different things of that nature. So, yeah, as Brandon Cybert says, 4 of our losses were within 7 points. So, yeah, it wasn't like A&T just got – I mean, there were times when A&T absolutely got hammered, but it wasn't as many times as people thought they were going to be. Or thought it was. So, oh, you don't know Edwin? That's the Rod Broadway legendary saying, "We just making chicken." And Sean Gibbs explained it in his introductory press conference. When you go to KFC, you're not going for a hamburger or a hot dog. You're going for chicken. So A&T makes Rob Broadway's teams and Rob Broadway disciples make chicken. And every time they say that, I'm like, damn, I do want some fried chicken, and I want a chicken sandwich. Maybe I'll do that after I come back from the game I'm covering tonight. Oh yeah, I cover high school basketball here in Delaware too, so I'm a busy guy. That being said, so we've gotten to our MEAC and More friends. Now we're going to grade the MEAC schools, and we're going to do this in the order of finish. We're going to go from 6 to 1. So of course we start with the 6th place Norfolk State Spartans, who finished 1-10 overall with a 10-game losing streak to close out the season and did not win a single MEAC game. Now, their offense, only reason I give their offense was an F because Mike Vick, it's strange that Mike Vick couldn't get a handle on the quarterback situation. 4 or 5 different guys saw action at quarterback for Norfolk State this year. None of them really did great, aside from Otto Coons. I really would have just stuck with Coons for the whole year, but that's just me. They still had great running backs, Kayvon King and Xavion Evans, and their receivers. So yeah, I think maybe I unfairly graded Norfolk State's offense when you take into account Drayson Kendrick and Cameron Thomas and guys like that. So I mean, Norfolk State had the guys, they just couldn't get the job done. Defensively, they were good there. I was amazed at how they just absolutely choked off Delaware State's run game in the Lincoln Financial Field game. So. Special teams, I give them a C because the kicker was kind of spotty. So overall, Norfolk State gets a D- from your boy. And I'm really interested to see what Michael Vick does with this winter recruiting period, because there's a lot that has to be done for that Norfolk State football team to be better than they were in 2025, because they were moribund. Absolutely horrible. Rocky Hines says the defense should have been given an F. The DBs were absolutely terrible. Which team are we talking about here? Let me know, and I'll let you know if I agree or not. Shout out to A&T Roy checking in, saying doing chicken. Number 1, stop the run. 2, protect the football. 3, win the kicking game. So that is Rod Broadway's 11 herbs and spices, as it were. And Sean Gibbs is protecting that recipe. And again, A&T, I mean, yeah, they gave up a couple of 60 burgers this year, but other than that, they were very competitive. They weren't as competitive under Vincent Brown. So I think Sean Gibbs is going to do a better job, and he still is the man for that job. He probably should have been the man for the Florida A&M job, but that's another story for another day. Norfolk State. Okay, all right, so here's where I will agree with you on this. Delaware State did not have a good passing offense this year. Somehow Caden Bennett managed to pick that Lincoln Financial Field turf all over the place. Like, he was just hitting guys in different areas. And I'm like, is Norfolk State going to get on that guy? Is Norfolk State going to get on that guy? And especially the wide open touchdown to Ryan Pelham-Taylor in the end zone. Ryan Pelham-Taylor had enough time to sit there, fill out his FAFSA for the winter, get a cup of coffee, check social media, and catch the touchdown pass. He was so wide open. I was like, that's not good. I mean, as a Delaware State alum, I was like, woohoo! But as an impartial journalist, I'm like, yikes. So yeah, maybe Norfolk State's defense was just kind of, oh, Lord, have mercy. But yeah, that's something else that Coach Vick is going to have to work on in 2026. Next up, number 5 in the MEAC, the Morgan State Bears. They finished 4-8 overall, 1-4 in MEAC play. Their offense only gets a C- because they didn't have to. They were desperate for offense, and they turned to Raymond Moore III, a redshirt freshman from Mervo High School in Baltimore. And if you're Baltimore, as Jared Hoffman says, Baltimore, you know that Mervo is one of the top programs, not just in Baltimore City, but in the state. But yeah. Ray Moore III came on late, gave that team an offensive identity. So C- from where they were is actually pretty good. Defense, of course, on Morgan State is always an A. As a gentleman, you see Eric Hunter here. Definitely should get some looks in NFL draft camps as a linebacker, middle linebacker. Special teams, they did not have a kicking game, as we saw in the Delaware State game. And so I gave them a C. So overall, Morgan State gets a C. And we say this every year. We say this every year. If Morgan State could find some offense, they would be a problem. I think what's going to help Damon Wilson is that he has two super young players that played critical roles in critical positions. You have Moore. He's got to be your lead guy going into spring practice. The young running back, Randall Naughton, who had a really good, second half of the year. So you've got a running back. You've got a quarterback. You need a wide receiver. You need 5 big dogs up front to protect those guys. You get that. You get some new play designs, which means Coach Wilson is probably going to have to go find himself an offensive coordinator somewhere down the line. Then you can do some things. So I like, I'm not one of those people that's saying Damon Wilson has to go. I won't say that unless Morgan State just goes 0-12 this year. And I don't see that happening. So I think Morgan State, give them another year. They should be in the hunt. 4th overall is the Howard University Bison. They finished 5-7 overall, 2-3 in the MEAC. Offensively, I think Tyreek Starks had a good enough season, but there was still some very interesting offensive moments on the Howard Bison football team that just left you scratching your head like, yo, is this team really good or are they not? So I gave their offense a C+. I gave their defense a B. Special teams was a B-. They would have had an A if the kicker had maintained his pace, because Matt Connard had one of the most memorable moments of the year, kicking that 43-yard field goal at the gun to beat Florida A&M in the Orange Blossom Classic. So you figure, okay, Howard has a kicker. They've got, they got a real strong kicker that can win ball games for him. Connor just sort of like, I don't know if he was hurt or the moment got too big for him, but he started missing some kicks, and it was just like, ooh, oh my. So yeah. So Howard gets a C+ overall from me, and it's hard to win in the MEAC every year. When Howard won in 2023, it was just one of those star-crossed years for that program. They were able to, do what they were supposed to do in conference. They beat everybody else. Who was the one team they lost to? Who did they lose to in 23? I can't remember if it was Morgan or Norfolk State or South Carolina State. I can't remember. But I know they put 50 on North Carolina Central, boy. I still can't get over that. I was coming home from covering a game at Delaware State. I was like, let me turn on this Howard Central game. See what's going on. Oh, boy. Am I reading this score correctly? Let me put my glasses on. I don't have glasses anymore because I broke my glasses and I can't afford to get them. So I'm just walking around, kind of blind a little bit. But yeah, let me put my glasses on. Is this score correct? Sure enough, it was 50-20. It was 50-20. And Howard won the MEAC in 2023. 2024, they had a tough end of the season stretch. The middle part of this year is what killed Howard. The middle part of this year is what killed them. So, okay, thanks, Kim. So it was South Carolina State that beat Howard in 23. I couldn't remember. I simply could not remember. But yeah, thank you for letting us know. So Howard next year, I mean, it's going to be interesting because Larry Scott's going to have to go find another quarterback. He's probably going to have to find some more receivers and replace some really good guys on the defensive side of the ball. So, but Howard sells itself. Like Howard University, if you can't, if you can't get kids to come to Howard, but Larry Scott gets kids to come to Howard. So I think Howard will be in the mix next year as well. Number 3 in the MEAC, pardon me, is the North Carolina Central Eagles. Now, this was a team that I thought was the best team right up until they lost to Delaware State. And I still thought they had a chance against South Carolina State. But, those were 2 MEAC games they lost, and they were unfortunately home for the winner. But they still had a really good team all around. Offense, I rate them an A. Walker Harris, top quarterback. Running back duo of A.J. Rogers and Chris Mosley was really good. That receiving core was dynamite. Chauncey Spikes, the young man you see in the picture. Makai Wall. Yeah, really good offense. Defense, led by Thomas Johnson, the big fella up front. They did a really good job, stopping the run and, defending the pass. And special teams, Caleb Robinson is the best kicker in black college football. Easily. So they get an A. So overall, Central was an A team. Trey Oliver and his staff might disagree because they're not playing in the Celebration Bowl. But overall, they were the MEAC's strongest team right up until a point. And I think what's going to be interesting for them next year is how do you replace Walker Harris? And how do you replace, Spikes and Mosley on offense and Johnson on the front line. You see, Thomas Johnson was the heart and soul of that North Carolina Central defense this year, and Max Urin as well at the linebacker spot. So there's a lot of questions for Central coming into this offseason, but I think Trey Oliver and his guys will be able to answer them easily. So that's my grades for Central. Now we get to my alma mater, the Delaware State University. Best record in 18 years. But I'm critical. The offense rate, they finished 8-4 overall, 4-1 in the MEAC. Offense overall was an A. I honestly wanted to give them a B because the passing game never really developed. But when you lead the nation in rushing at nearly 300 yards a game running, you're doing something right. And you won 8 games with it, so can't be success. Defense, the minus is the defensive secondary. This defensive secondary for Delaware State was terrible. And Deshaun Jackson and his staff will tell you they were terrible. So they get an A minus. But everywhere else, the front seven was just absolutely nasty, especially led by Brian Bates and those guys up front. Special teams was a B. The kicking game was okay, but one of the trademarks of Delaware State, we've always had great return guys. And for some strange reason, there were no punt returns or kick returns broken for any reasonable length this year. So I think that's something Coach Jackson is going to have to address in the offseason, is getting a game breaker in the special teams game. Overall, you can't be mad at a team that won 8 games for the first time in 18 years, and you can't be mad at the fact that 8-win season quadrupled the number of wins combined of the last 2 years. So Delaware State, to me, looks like a team that is, on the rise. They're ready to make the next step. Hopefully, this is a critical juncture for Deshaun Jackson, the head coach, because he didn't have a full winter to recruit. He got the job December 27th. And, he was introduced January 6th. So by that time, all the good kids are gone. But he was still able to get enough in the portal to make, and, coach up the remaining guys to make DSU a MEAC contender. But yeah, he's got all the good stuff at his disposal now through March. So it's going to be interesting to see what Delaware State recruiting cycle looks like this year. Then, of course, last but certainly not least, because they won the MEAC, and it's pretty easy to tell that this team was the best team in the MEAC. That's why they were picked to win at the beginning of the year, and they ended up winning it. The South Carolina State Bulldogs. They finished 9-3 overall, unbeaten in the MEAC. What can you ask? What more can you say about this team? Offense. Billy Atkins, the transfer quarterback from James Madison. Easily, the right guy for that South Carolina State offense. The running backs, Tyler Smith, Josh Shaw. The receivers, KZ Adams. Defensive side of the ball, Josh Barker, Jared Washington. Those guys balled out. Special teams. Nico Cavanilis Alti is how you say his name. Very good kicker. And overall, best team in the MEAC gets the best grade, A+. So South Carolina State, like I have said in previous years in this program, they're just not a team that you can just easily dismiss. You can't just get rid of them because, well, you figure, it's somebody else's turn this year. They may have a down year. That doesn't happen with South Carolina State. They are the gold standard in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, without question. And they proved it again this year. And I think they have a really good shot against whoever comes out of the SWAC. If it's Jackson State, I'm looking forward to that game. I think they beat Prairie View. I do think they beat Prairie View. But Jackson State is probably just a little tougher matchup, as they proved last year. But you got to remember, South Carolina State did not have their lead quarterback going into the Celebration Bowl last year because Eric Phoenix, got hurt in the Morgan State game. It was never the same player after that. Billy Atkins, bit bigger, bit stronger, not as fast as Eric Phoenix, but a true pocket quarterback who can run when he needs to. So I think South Carolina State stands a better chance. I'm not predicting anything yet, but I'm saying that South Carolina State, this iteration of South Carolina State stands a better chance in the Celebration Bowl than last year's South Carolina State team did. That's my general consensus. Let's get to some of these comments. Silas, thank you for checking in. He says the MEAC is only rule next year. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a undefeated team in the MEAC next year. I do not. We only got it this year because South Carolina State was just head and shoulders above everybody else. But I don't think anybody makes it out of the MEAC unscathed in 2026. Nobody. I think we're going to end up with at least a two-way tie at 3-2 or 4-1, somewhere along those lines. I don't think anybody makes it out of the MEAC unscathed next year because all of these coaches are going to have an offseason to recruit. You've got the portal, you've got NIL, you've got kids who are just tired of their situation, want to try something different. So I don't think anybody makes it out of the MEAC unscathed next year at all. Every team in the conference takes at least one loss, but it all does depend on the tiebreakers and matchups. Who ends up going to Atlanta next December? So Brandon says Coach Oliver always gives one away that leaves you scratching your head. The Delaware State game. Because I watched that. And after Marquise Gillis went for the touchdown that put Delaware State ahead, Mekhi Wall had a really good kickoff return, about not close, not at midfield, but pretty close. And for some strange reason, Central threw the ball 3 straight times. 3 straight incompletions. Now, I don't claim to be a football genius. But what I do know is, if you have a short field, like less than 60 yards, less than 55 to be honest with you, about 50 yards for a go-ahead touchdown, you can run the ball. You can absolutely, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, pick up a first down, then start, kind of picking apart, dinking and dunking, or whatever you want to do passing wise. But for some strange reason, Central threw 3 straight times on that possession, and I just did not understand it. I did not understand it. But it helped out Delaware State because they ended up winning that game. So I just found that very interesting that they just decided to, do that. That was the game that they gave away, in my opinion. The game against South Carolina State was just a better football team. And that's something that I think a lot of people in the Delaware State community missed. Like, people were so excited to make reservations for Atlanta. I'm like, hold on. South Carolina State is one of them ones. They are one of the, the gold standards of black college football. They're coming up here to win a football game. I mean, yes, it's exciting for us, but this is all what happened for them. And that's exactly what happened. I wish I had thought about this before I started the show. I'll probably do the all MEAC list next week. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up now and share my screen with y'all. The beauty of live television or live streaming. Let's see. All right. So let me see if I can share my screen, because see, when you caught me off guard with that, Lionel, because I totally forgot to add that. I don't know how to share my screen. Damn. Sorry, guys. Well, while I figure that out, overall, the MEAC this year was just a very, very interesting, conference to watch. And I hope people understand that this is a league, even though there's only 6 teams, that any given year somebody can jump up and make it interesting. This year was Delaware State. A couple years ago it was Howard. Last year was South Carolina State. This year we were expecting South Carolina State to be good. But 2024 coming in with the new coach, with transitioning from Buddy Pugh to Chennis Berry, I think people were really curious to see how Chennis Berry would do in a Division I context. The fact of the matter is, the man wins football games. He may not have won a big one yet, but when the regular season, you got to get to the big game. And when it comes to getting to the big game, nobody in the last 5 years has been better than Chennis Berry. Nobody. He won He won 22 straight regular season games at Benedict. Got him to, won both won both SIAC is what I'm trying to say, championship games, and he's won 2 MEAC championships in his first 2 years at South Carolina State. You can't argue with that level of success, which is why I was really shocked that Southern didn't at least make a phone call to him, because Chennis Berry was the offensive coordinator when Dawson Owens was winning SWAC West titles left and right. That is a call I would have made before I called Marshall Faulk. That's just me. But then again, you got to remember that Southern is governed by Louisiana's Board of Regents or board of something or whatever. So when somebody in that room says Southern needs a big name, and they say go get Marshall Faulk and we'll pay for Marshall Faulk, that's what it is. But I would have called Chennis Berry first. I would have called Trey Oliver first, because Trey Oliver was the DC. Either one of those dudes probably would be a better coach than Marshall Faulk is at this point, because they've actually coached. But hey, I'm just one guy. I'm just one guy with an opinion. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do this screen share. I wish somebody, one of my coworkers would help me, but they be leaving me out to dry sometimes. I'm just playing. We have a good working relationship, so I'm not going to sit here, throw those guys under the bus. But I'm legitimately trying to figure out how to share my screen, and for some strange reason, I have forgotten how to share my screen in StreamYard. Lionel says, you don't know, they are antithetical of how they run that institution in Southern. Adrian Cook checks in saying we're not governed by anyone. That board is Southern University lawyers. So who is in charge of who makes the decisions in Southern? Adrian, please let us know. Jay Cedric, I'm using this raggedy microphone, this lavalier mic, because my $99 microphone from Best Buy has crapped out. So that's why I'm using this microphone. So hopefully in the next day or two, I can go to a store and get another microphone, or maybe I had to order one off of Amazon. I don't know. But when I was recording my other podcast, this cheaply made piece of hunk of junk crapped out on me, and I'm not happy about it. So that's why I have the lavalier, the little clip-on mic, and my beard is not helping matters. I know, but yes, hopefully by the time we get to Friday, when I'll probably join Ken and Jared Hoffman for the HBCU Sports Live show, I can have something else in place of this. This was just like, I got to do something. So I've had this lying around for a little bit, so I just decided to use it. So that's why the sound is what it is. I apologize for that. Adrian Cook says the SU appointed board worked with Banks this time. Okay, so it is Southern folks. All right. Soldier Rag says we know people in Baton Rouge don't allow ADs to make athletic decisions. I don't think a lot of ADs have their own call these days, and that's not just a Southern thing. That's not even just an HBCU thing. That's a PWI thing. That is a mid-major thing. That is a group of 4 thing. The AD normally answers to the president of the university, the chancellor, the provost, well, not the provost, the board of trustees. These are the folks that ADs usually answer to anyway. So when you think about it like that, Roman Banks, he is going to fall on the sword for this. Make no mistake about it. If Marshall Faulk is a failure, Roman Banks is out of there. Absolutely. Because they're going to blame him next. Because, Terrence Graves kind of, what we found out later on, it's kind of his own doing. Same with Eric Dooley. But if Marshall Faulk does not work out at Southern, I guarantee you Banks is out of there. They're going to find an AD who is going to do what they want and do it correctly. Not saying Banks hasn't done anything correctly yet, because I mean Southern is good in other sports, clearly, but football is one of the ones that Southern just cannot afford to be bad at. Being in a football crazy state like Louisiana, Texas is next door, Mississippi's on the other side, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Arkansas. That is just a football area, and you can't afford to be bad with that much talent around you. So yeah, hopefully Marshall Faulk works for Norfolk. I'm for Southern. Like I said, I would have called Chennis Berry or Trey Oliver first, but who knows? All right, so I'm still trying to figure out how to share this screen, because I do want to talk about the all MEAC teams. For some strange reason, I do not. Let me see if I'm. No, that's not it. Adrian Crook says the coach Banks hired winning can't drop his name, but Banks was wronged with Graves. I think so too, because it was clear that the folks on Southern's board did not want Terrence Graves at all. At all. Like they had that man. Like I said this before, you got me sitting in the room with a bunch of people telling me I'm not good enough to be a coach. I'm like, well, you get somebody else to do this damn job. I ain't gonna sit here and listen to this. I don't need the money that bad. That would have been my take from it. But Terrence Graves, he decided to hang around, give it a shot. They won the SWAC West his first year. I was like, all right, now y'all look stupid. Y'all should have just went ahead and said, well, we're happy to have Terrence Graves. Then the 2025 season started. It was like, ooh. Well, we talking SWAC business. This is the MEAC and More. But yeah, overall, see, just Donald, that was Tony blasting it. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so it was Tony Clayton who had a problem with Terrence Graves. Still, you're not gonna sit here in the room and tell me that I can't coach. If you brought me in this MF to coach, especially since I'm the only coach to win both sides of the Bayou Classic. Because remember, Terrence Graves was the interim coach at Grambling. He won that. Bayou Classic. He was the interim coach at Southern. He won that Bayou Classic. You couldn't tell me anything. If I'm the only dude who has worn black and gold and blue and gold, and I got 2 Bayou Classic trophies in my crib, you wouldn't be able to tell me a doggone thing. Absolutely nothing. But college sports, it kind of is what it is. This is really bothering me that I can't figure out how to share my screen. You know what? We're going to Google it. That's what Google's for. As Foghorn Leghorn would say, that's what it's for, Richard. All right, so. Tony Haskins said, if you had the answers, why didn't you lean over and tell Dooley? Woo-hoo-wee. You know what? I actually like, being privy to, inside information. I think it's the nosy journalist in me that I think a lot of people forget that, us as journalists, we are people who are, always interested in the inner workings of this, that, and the 23rd. Like, curiosity and just being nosy will always be hallmarks and trademarks of what makes a good journalist. So I'm always interested to find out, because I was able to get some information as to why Delaware State chose Deshaun Jackson. And a lot of that information was stuff that it was set in stone that Delaware State wanted an NFL player. Like I said, they originally wanted Chris Carter. Yes, all he does is catch touchdowns, Chris Carter. But he did not want to move his family to Dover, Delaware. And I get it, because not too many people want to move their family to Dover, Delaware. So I get it. But, Coach Jackson, he still had a home in Jersey. He decided, that's what he wanted to do. He said he was down for it. And it looks like a genius hire right now because we haven't talked about Delaware State football this much in generation, not in a positive way. So, I mean, I don't think the last time Delaware State football was decent. Follow me now. HBCU sports was the only thing rocking. HBCU game day hadn't been founded yet. A bunch of other people in the space hadn't, discovered their blackness yet. Because I think there's a lot of people in this space who have just discovered they are black. And I mean, people, you can take that how you want. Doesn't bother me one bit of difference because, as always, I said what I said, and nothing. And I don't. I mean, if you think it, I mean, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it don't apply, let it fly. But I think a lot. I think that's what bothers me a lot about people who are now all of a sudden HBCU experts. It's like a lot of people now have just discovered that they are black. But people like us in the space have known we were black our entire lives. Like me, I ain't got that complex. Like I know my people struggle. I know where we come from. I know where we've been. I know where we need to go. And there are some people who jump into space and be like, oh, wow, HBCUs, y'all should do this, y'all should do that. You think we haven't tried all of this stuff that you're suggesting already? Just think about it. Think before you speak. That's all I ask of anybody that's new in this space. I don't care if you have a podcast. I don't care if you have a blog. I don't care if you are a former NFL player. Our space is sacred. And you should respect our space is sacred. Don't come in here talking about any foolishness that we can easily rebuke and send you packing on. Respect our space. I never forget. I never forget. I was on Twitter and I try to stay off of Twitter because it's owned by Musty. But I saw an Eagles fan, getting upset about LaShawn McCoy saying negative things about Jalen Hurts. And I had to chime in. I said, man, let me tell you something. LaShawn McCoy went to MEAC Media Day and called Howard University Hampton. And Hampton left the MEAC 7 years ago. Ignore that man. Because he doesn't know. As my grandmother used to say, he don't know his behind from a hole in the ground. So just ignore him. Ignore him. And I think that's probably what we need to do with a lot of people who swear they know everything about HBCUs, but they didn't attend an HBCU, or they don't have the experience of having family members of people like they're not of the community. And people are going to look at this harshly. People are going to say, "Oh, Chris, you're gatekeeping. Oh, Chris, you're being snooty. You're looking down. Damn right, because I've lived this life. I graduated from. I enrolled in Delaware State University in 2001. I didn't finish until 2007. I went through bouts of depression, different health issues, but I was finishing my damn degree, and I did, and I loved my HBCU experience. So I will speak with the certainty and the clarity of someone who has lived this life. I've stood in the financial aid lines. I've done the plots. Even though I never pledged. I was never cool enough to pledge. When it's so funny because the last MEAC coaches call was Omega Psi Phi Founders Day, and there are 3 coaches in the MEAC who are Qs: Barry Scott, Chennis Berry, Damon Wilson. And it was so funny because Coach Berry is always the next to last on the call, and Coach Wilson is the last on the call. So Coach Berry is signing off for the call, and Damon Wilson comes on, and Coach Wilson says, Coach, before I sign off, bro, I just want to say Happy Founders Day. And Coach Berry's like, finally, somebody says it. Happy Founders Day, bro. So, we have people in the space who know the space. And then we have people in the space who are just in the space to be in the damn space. And I'm not feeling that at all. Take it how you want. I do not care. Because I've lived this life. And I'm proud of that fact that I've lived this life. And I will defend it with everything in me. That's all I got. That's all I got on the topic. Adrian says, when I was in high school, I was 15 minutes down the street, a straight shot to Southern. I had classmates who didn't know how to get the sub. How? How? Yo, that is crazy. That is crazy. He said he had classmates who couldn't know how to get the Southern. I'm like, yeesh. Oof. Worst kind of people, man. Soldier Rag says they are in the space to get clicks and chasing checks. Listen, with anything you do, this isn't just journalism. I don't care if you are I don't care if you're a cook, a baker, a food critic, a science, a STEM person. I don't care if you got an OnlyFans. You should probably whatever it is. And I imagine if you have an OnlyFans, you probably are doing it for the money, but you probably love that sort of you're probably an exhibitionist. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, by the way. But whatever you do, the love has to be there first. And if the money comes, so be it. But while it's coming, please be sure you love what you do, you know what you do, you respect what you do, and you honor what you do. Because people can tell when you just faking stuff for faking stuff. Like there's no denying that. I can think of, the best example right now is Kim Kardashian, throwing a temper tantrum because she couldn't pass the bar. What about Kim Kardashian says that she could pass any test? I would bet dollars to donuts that Kim Kardashian couldn't pass a American history exam. The bar, the law, the practice law. I don't care if it's in California or not. The bar, whatever. That's why lawyers always celebrate. And fellas, if you're single and you know a woman, you're dating a woman who is actively taking the bar and passes it, you're in for a good time. Just want to put that out there if you're curious. But yeah, people can tell when you're faking stuff. When you're just in something to be in something because you think it's a way for you to be seen, a way for you to be heard, a way for you to make a bag. This is life. This is life for us. Folks like Ken Rashad, who spent some of his formative years literally on the campus of Grambling. It's folks like Jared Hoffman, who went to Bowie State and has turned into a fantastic young journalist. Which reminds me, he'll probably be doing a Better Than Less Than podcast tomorrow, where he'll be covering the Albany State Newberry game. Because Albany State, if they win this game, they're in the NCAA Division II Final Four. So yeah, we definitely rooting for Albany State. And I probably think Florida A&M is rooting for Albany State too, because the further they go, the better their chances are that Quentin Gray will be available for them. I mean, he's probably available for them now. Just saying. Adrian Crook says, how are you wearing a Southern starter jacket? You can't find the campus on senior day. We don't talk enough about how starter jackets were probably the greatest, bit of clothing you could have as a youngster in the 90s. I was a spoiled brat. My mom, because there was a period in my life where I was a San Diego Chargers fan. I can't explain that to you any more than I can explain The Man in the Moon. But the San Diego Chargers were my football team for a good while in the middle of the 90s. Do you know my mom drove us, because we lived in Wilmington, Delaware, and Foreman Mills is just now, I forget what it's called. I think it's just called the Malls. I think it's called Philadelphia Mills or whatever. But it used to be called Foreman Mills once. No, it wasn't. It was Franklin Mills. I'm sorry. Foreman Mills is still around. Franklin Mills is what the big mall in North Philly was called. So my mom hated driving to Philly, and she passed it down to me because I hate driving to Philly. But my mom drove me to Philly 2 days before school started to get me a San Diego Chargers starter jacket. I was a spoiled brat, and I'm grateful to my mom for that. But yeah, starter jackets used to be the thing, man. The hats too. Listen, if I ever find the old school Sixer starter jacket, red or white, I'm wearing that MF. Please believe it. I gotta lose some weight because I put some weight back on. Unfortunately, I was 225 once upon a time. Now I'm back in the 270s. Ugh, I hate that. But you know, if I can find one of those old school red Sixer starter jackets with the blue letters, I'm buying it and I'm wearing it. Absolutely. But yes. All right. DLOB says, no fam, you let us set the example for this calendar stuff. Wait until he's done coaching. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. But I can tell you now, I do not think, and this is just, and this is just me. I don't have that intel. I'm not a Florida A&M alum. I'm not a Florida A&M insider. But I cannot imagine a man that has lost to Mississippi Valley State 2 times in a row gets to keep his job. I can't see it. I just can't. I'm sorry. Shouts out to Vaughn Anderson Bulldogs for life. Yeah. I like South Carolina State. All right. My mom is tuned in. She says your family has had a family member DSU every decade since the 60s. So yeah, we got tradition, man. My family has tradition. So thanks, Mom. But Delaware State is in my bloodline. Literally. Matter of fact, my cousin's daughter, which would make her, I think, my niece or my cousin, I can't remember. Either way, she just graduated from Del State last year. So we have had a member of the family in Delaware State for 7 going on 8 decades now. It's in our bloodline, and that's why I'm very protective of this space. I'm very protective of the culture. I'm very protective of our schools. Somebody has to be, because again, a lot of people are just in this, because they see a way to make a buck. And again, people can tell, as Jay-Z once said, that butter soft stuff from that leather on the farm. People, you can't, or as Kendrick, or to bring it into 2020 terms, Kendrick says you can rig the game, but you can't fake influence. Soldier Rag with a great question. Has any coach lost to Valley 2 years in a row and was able to keep their job? I don't know. Because has Valley beat anybody 2 years in a row? But it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. Mississippi Valley State, the school Ken Rashad says needs to move to Division II, has beaten Florida A&M twice in a row. What a time. What a time to be alive. Since I can't share this screen, I'm just going to save it for next week when we preview the Celebration Bowl, when I preview the South Carolina State side of the Celebration Bowl. So, yeah, we'll talk about the all MEAC teams. Adrian Cook says after 100 years, that is found about. Valley's only been open since 1950. They were originally Mississippi Vocational College, something along those lines. So, yeah, but they began. Mississippi Valley State is our youngest major HBCU and the most disrespected and the most criminally underfunded because of Tate Reeves and his minions in Mississippi state government. So that's why I kind of sort of, always give Valley a pass, because Valley has been, they've been Lucy Van Pelted with the football from the word go. The one time Valley had some really legit success was, of course, the gunslinger Archie Cooley days of Mr. Jerry Rice and Willie Satellite Tot. So Valley, again, DLOB said Valley wanted to move that game to Atlanta for a reason. They knew they were going to win. and you know what? I think what probably makes the FAMU situation worse is they lost the Bayou Classic the week before losing to Valley. That's the hard part. Like, listen, if you lose the Bayou, not the Bayou Classic. I said the Bayou Classic. I'm sorry, the Florida Classic. How can you lose the Bayou Classic when the Bayou Classic is Southern Grambling? But yeah, I think what hurt what hurts James Coley's cause is that he lost the Florida Classic the week before, and then went to Valley and lost. I said it before. He couldn't afford to lose either end of those games, and he lost both of them. But again, I'm not Florida A&M's AD. I'm not Florida A&M's president. I'm not Florida A&M's board of trustees. I am not even a Florida A&M alumni, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But anyway, thank you guys for rocking with me on this edition of the MEAC and More. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. I gotta, move a couple of things around so I can share my links if you guys want to check me out. Like, for example, I have this wonderful music podcast called On the Groove Line. I'm currently doing a 25 Days of Christmas series where I'll be talking about a different Black Christmas song every day. And you can check that out by clicking this lovely link right here, youtube.com/On the Groove Line. That is where you can find some of the and I'll talk about all kinds of old school music there. Funk, R&B, disco. I've had interviews with great people like Michael Cooper, one of the co-founders of Confunction, Keith Kilgo, one of the co-founders of the Blackbirds, an unsung Philly funk band named Breakwater. If you guys haven't heard any of Breakwater's 2 albums yet, I highly recommend you go check those out. They were a couple years ahead of their time. And I have a dating and romance podcast called The Overnight Scenario, where I talk about all things dating, romance, alternative stuff, which I will, keep, kind of quiet because my mother's in the room and my mom doesn't need to know about some of the stuff I'm talking about on The Overnight Scenario. But you can. So check out The Overnight Scenario on my Patreon. It's $1 a month to sign up for my Patreon, and you guys can check that out. And sign up for my Patreon. Not only is the Overnight Scenario there, but I also have books that I'm working on. Which reminds me, I do want to share one quick announcement before I get up out of here. Next Thursday, excuse me. Thursday, December 11th, I will be publishing a brand new romance novel, Christmas romance, and I have yet to come up with a title. I have yet to come up with a cover art, but the book is done. But I'll have all of that information coming for you guys. It'll be an ebook format, which means you can download it to your computers and your laptops and read it there, and your phones and all of that good stuff. So the premise of this book is a widowed single father who runs a bookstore. It meets up with a woman who is a public relations specialist. She comes back to her hometown. She hates it. They meet. Chemistry and flirting starts to happen, and it's a fun book. I highly recommend it because I wrote it. So it's kind of like Black Hallmarkish. It's just in reading format. It's in book format. So once again, I'll have that title and cover art ready for you guys in the near future. But the book will be coming out December 11th, and I may do some HBCU trivia and give away a couple of copies. So you guys can stay tuned and find out more about that. So thank you guys for again. Before I get out of here, be sure to follow us on all manners of social media. We're on the Musty app, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, all of that. Just search for HBCU Sports. And if you want to donate, again, we have the Cash App going across the screen. Just type in $ HBCU Sports. If you want to donate through Zelle, go into the Zelle app, type in donate at hbcusports.com, donate there. Also, you can go to our website, hbcusports.com/donate, and donate there. And don't forget to hit up our HBCU Sports merch store. We have tumblers, we have coffee mugs, we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have all sorts of things, And Ken Rashad, and by the way, Ken Rashad's HBCU 101, a guide to understanding Black college sports, still very much up for sale. If you go through his store directly, if you hit up his website, he will sign a copy for you of the thicker book, not the stuff that you're going to find on the shelves at Barnes & Noble, which isn't a bad book, but the thicker copy, it's like, the richer material, the stuff that you sit with by the fireplace and just thumb through. Like, Ken Rashad will sign that book for you if you go to kenrashad.com and do that. So thank you guys for watching and listening to the MEAC More. Remember, tomorrow, Better Than Less Than podcast with Jared Hoffman. Friday, the HBCU Sports Live SWAC page where we'll preview the SWAC championship game. So thank you guys for watching and listening. Until the next time we speak, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. We gone.